this seems like a great idea, right? I'm in the West
Yeah.
and it's supernatural. It's like Winona Earp or something like that, you know? It's those kinds of elements, but most of the time you're just like taking out bandits, just regular bandits. Finally, on the show today, we have games you thought we'd played. Games we
Games
played.
we have played.
Games we played.
Games we've been playing.
Games we've been playing. There you go. Because, to be honest with you, it's probably not going to be a big surprise that we did. Especially for me, because I think I actually mentioned this when we did our live episode. But I've been playing a little bit of Weird West, which just released.
That sounds weird.
It is, and it's set in the West.
Wow.
So, well, truth in advertising is something that's got going for it.
True.
But I'll try to explain it a little bit. Basically, it's like an isometric viewpoint, like an old CRPG kind of viewpoint, kind of top down.
Sure.
Where it's real time though. It's not turn-based combat, anything like that. It's all in real time, and they have labeled it essentially as an immersive sim, which I'll get into what that is in a little bit. But basically, what you need to understand is imagine it's set in the West, but it is indeed weird, by which they mean that there are like supernatural creatures, werewolves are an actual thing, stuff of that nature is happening in this world.
So it's a pseudoscience West.
Pseudoscience West, essentially, yeah. And you will get special abilities, and you are supposed to go through with multiple characters because there's like 5 character story arcs that you go through.
Okay.
To be honest with you, have really only been playing the first one so far. I have not quite completed that. I don't know if I'm going to get to the other ones. I'm pretty sure I'm close to the end of the first one, but it starts you off in the storyline of a gunslinger whose husband has been taken by these raiders that are cannibals, basically. And so,
As raiders do.
yeah, so her husband may possibly be alive, but but she has to basically leave the family homestead life after seeing her son killed and her husband dragged off by these guys. The whole justification is that the son gets killed off because there's not enough meat on his bones. The the husband though looks
Wasteful
like,
cannibals.
I know they really are. But after seeing that, realizes that she has to go and unbury her old irons from the time that she was a bounty hunter, and
Okay.
And go and hunt these guys down. So that's the first basic storyline, and the ones that come after it get more and more supernatural from what I've seen, to the characters that actually do transform into werewolves and are like more of the weirder parts of the Weird West. But the gameplay itself is basically going from one area to another. Time tracks while you go from one area to another. Sometimes they are on timers if you're looking for bounties and stuff like that. And when you get into those towns, the idea is that you are interacting with people, getting missions, hints about where your husband might be, and then going to areas where there are a bunch of very bad dudes, where you can take those dudes out with your guns and other various things. Because obviously it's the West, so you got like dynamite as well, and sometimes that's handy. But
yeah, that is.
Yeah, you'll probably find though that the regular old guns are going to do a pretty fair job. Now, as I said, they labeled this as an immersive sim, and that's a genre that we don't really talk much about on the show, I don't think. But
Not as much, no.
Not specifically about what that is, but I'd say that if you wanted examples of that, Deus Ex and Dishonored are considered immersive sims.
Are they?
They are.
Okay.
The reason why the essential definition of it is that creating a world where your actions have like consequential, like by doing actions, it affects the game itself. Your interactions with it, and being able to actually utilize the environment in different ways to play in different ways. So
Okay.
they Deus Ex kind of started this whole thing. It's one of the ones that kind of started it with where you can interact with the world and go through those chapters in a myriad of different ways. You don't have. You can do it by stealth. You can do it by direct combat. You can use strength and your jumping skills to get up to different areas. You can talk your way out of situations, etc. A lot of different ways to interact with the environment. Dishonored also has this where you can choose whether you're going around killing everybody or if you're trying to neutralize them non-lethally, and that does affect the world and the environment and then the mechanics of it as time goes on. And this does have elements of that. Like, for instance, there'll be like acid barrels, and if you wanted to, you could kick the acid barrel, and if it gets set on fire, it explodes. And then anybody who's caught in that is obviously not having a great day. You also have the ability to actually sneak up on characters and knock them out. You get them into a chokehold, and you can then hide the bodies somewhere if you would like. So there are a lot of elements about how you go through this. But to be fair, I found that most of the time, the quickest and easiest way to do any of this was pretty much to just go in and start trying to shoot everything because the sneaking up on people and then like trying to drag them off, it takes a while. And besides that, also kind of leaves you exposed while you're doing it.
Right.
You have to pick your targets very carefully. And I did find that usually the enemies aren't particularly lethal. Like, I could get into a fight and kind of like hole behind something to make sure that they're not shooting at me and kind of veer out and fire. So, usually if I could take out a few from stealth and then just say, screw it. And I had quite a few times where there'd be like a bunch of people sitting around a card table, and if I wanted to, I could try to distract one, have them come out, get them in a chokehold, take them out to a bush, and try to distract the next one and have them come out. Or get this, I could throw a stick of dynamite into the room and just blow them all up.
Yeah. It sounds like my approach when I was playing Cyberpunk.
Yeah, exactly. You start to realize that in a lot of ways, there's, I could have taken a different path.
Like, could I take them all out non-lethally? Yes. And in cases that it's not a lot of enemies and it's easily accessible, I do. I do kill them. I mean, I take them out lethally, I murder everybody. But,
sure.
I sneak up and I murder them and stuff their bodies in refrigerators and stuff.
Yeah.
But in other cases, it's like, how many guys are there? There's a lot. Is it open? Yeah, it's pretty open. Do I have my sniper rifle? Yeah.
I did like the fact that like Cyberpunk kind of punted the whole non-lethal thing. You could just get a non-lethal mod for like every gun in the game. You just put the non-lethal mod on, and then they're still alive after you shoot them in the head with a bullet.
Yeah,
that's the way it is. And I'm like, that's terrific. I can get my revolver and I just go up to people, just shoot them all. Nope, didn't kill them. See, they're rolling around on the ground. Everything's fine.
You just melee them afterwards to kill them.
You can melee them afterward. It's fine. It's fine. It's all good. I feel like Cyberpunk actually could justify an immersive sim title only because there's so many ways that you can address situations like that, and it does affect your relationship with a lot of people. But they do try to use it for Weird West. The thing is that it's usually when you think about like the immersive sim, I usually think about it as a first-person perspective game because it's supposed to be like immersing you in the character itself, and this is definitely a third-person top-down, more of a tabletop kind of look to it, which is fine. I don't mind it really. But from a technical aspect, I think is where it starts to lose you because they did make some of the systems way too convoluted for what it is. mostly the gunplay part of it, because you have to you have to hold down one trigger or one mouse key, depending on how you're playing it, to aim the gun, to say that I'm actually aiming the gun, another one to fire, but then if you want to use any of the special abilities, you have to hit a button after you aim, but before you fire, make sure that it's active, then you fire it. And I realized that, okay, you've made this whole thing way too convoluted because the options don't come up until you're aiming. So,
Oh,
yeah, I know. It's because you'll have other options out of aiming that you can pick, but
that
once you
sounds annoying.
it is. It's very annoying. And making sure you equip the right gun, you can have 2 equipped at a time, and then there are going to be options for you in each one. Make sure you're aiming before you hit it. If you come out of aim, it's not going to be selected anymore. So make sure you're aiming, select your item for fanning a hammer on your pistol or whatever, and then you can pick a target, and as you're picking the target, then you can activate it and do that. The problem is that this is all in real time. This is so you're trying to manage all of this while they're running around the battlefield and hiding behind stuff, and you start to realize you don't interact with those systems because it's just so much easier to just shoot. Just shoot.
Shoot normally.
Just shoot normally. These abilities that they give you, you rarely ever use because it's so convoluted to use it. I could just shoot the target,
Right.
It just doesn't make sense. And also, you do get bounty hunters that you can add to your crew. You can hire people, and you start to realize that if you just equip them with a good gun that doesn't use ammunition, I mean, you have to use ammunition, but they don't. And you use some of your skills with these golden playing cards to upgrade your basic stats. You can just say that they have more health and ability, and eventually they're just walking tanks. So
yeah, this is essentially why you gave your companions in Fallout 4 a really good weapon to use, and then enough ammo to reload it so they had infinite ammo.
Oh yeah,
It's
absolutely.
yes, you've got an automatic crippling pistol. That way Deathclaws can't fucking hurt me.
Yeah, exactly. I
Because
mean,
now it's got both kneecaps broken.
let's face it, the fact is that once Fox was available to you in Fallout 3, you just make sure he's got his minigun. Let him go. Just let him go. Because he doesn't use ammo. It doesn't matter. He'll just pump it through. It never stops. But, yeah. So that was kind of a problem, and I just feel like there were 2 ways I tried playing it. I tried playing it on my Xbox, and I tried playing it on the computer. Because I wanted to see what the difference is. I tried the controller, and the controller was giving me a little bit of frustration, because I think the top-down, trying to do the shooter aspect of it and everything, was not lending itself well to the controller. So I said, okay, well, I'll try the computer. The problem is, of course, now my movement is all on the WASD, so it's easier to do the aiming part with the mouse. I can do that way easier, but now my movement is all tied to the keys, so it feels a little janky. The thing about it is that the game is not nearly as engaging as it sounds. You think to yourself, this seems like a great idea, right? I'm in the West, and it's supernatural. It's it's like Winona Earp or something like that, It's those kinds of elements, but most of the time, you're just taking out bandits. Just regular bandits.
That reminds me that I wanted to do a D&D campaign or a tabletop campaign where it was Western, not Wild West, but Gold Rush West.
Yeah.
And it was, I think I wanted to call it the Wild Magic West.
Sure.
Yeah, something like that. I have an idea for that. I'm not gonna go into detail right now, though.
Sure. But I could totally understand if it was Red Dead Redemption, Undead Nightmare, that kind of thing, or even when they did Red Dead 2 and there was some supernaturally stuff in the corners of that game, I like that idea. It's a cool setting and everything like that, but it never felt good to play like there was always something about it that felt a little off. There'd be monsters that were like holed up in certain areas, and they might detect you. Like you would never see like cones. You kind of figure that within a strategic framework, there'd be like cones of sight, and those will be on the mini maps, but they're
Yeah,
not.
but those aren't immersive, Nathan.
That's true. That's true. But the mini map is there. The thing is
That
that
is
they do have
also
the mini
not
map.
immersive.
Exactly. That's not very immersive. But the problem is that if you're going to show me the view angles on the mini map, I'd really like to be able to see it on the actual game itself. Because what happens is that when I'm seeing guys come across and everything like that, I can see the viewing angles on my mini map. Now I have to keep looking up at the mini map in order, and I'm not looking at the actual game, which doesn't feel immersive at all. To be
Right.
completely honest with you, there are potions you can use to like highlight the enemies, but a lot of it just blends together. And I think the biggest problem is just that it blends together, and when you get indoors, oh man, it gets really tricky because it's pulled out so much that it doesn't like automatically show you what's inside if you're just in there. Sometimes you get trapped behind walls from a technical aspect. But the weirdness is in the fringes of it, but I think they could have done a lot better job of kind of presenting it up at the front, and I never really felt like super engaged with what's going on. And then they do have that other problem we were talking about on a previous show about resource management and your carrying capacity. They have slots in this game, and everything requires a slot.
Of course it does.
Your armor. It encourages you to have like a rifle, a pistol, a shotgun, a bow, and a melee weapon. Well, all 5 of those take up a slot.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, it sure is. If you have any food items will only stack to a certain degree, up to like 5, and then they start a new stack. All of those stacks take up individual things. You use ore, copper, silver, and gold ore to upgrade weapons, etc. in the game, but both copper bars and then copper ore, those both take a separate slot. Same thing for the rest of them. Junk items, individual junk items, end up taking up a ton. So you spend a lot of time in your inventory. And once I realized, well, my horse will have an inventory, now I got to go back to my horse, try to dump a bunch of stuff onto the saddlebags, and go to my individual, characters, my posse, as it was, go into their inventory, dump a bunch of stuff into their inventory because they have slots too. And it's like, okay, so now it's just micromanagement for the heck of it. There was just a lot of stuff I could have seen them streamline, and maybe in the future they will, so that it feels a little bit better to play, just from getting around and the user interface of everything to make it feel a little bit more immersive. But there's something about it that just didn't lend itself very well to what they were trying to do, and I don't know if it's the top-down perspective or not, but it was not immersive in the way I thought it was going to be immersive for an immersive sim.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's not something that I would necessarily recommend, but I'll probably still be playing it a bit. Maybe if they patch it, just to see if it improves over time. But right now, I wasn't really feeling it. Still put about probably 10 hours into it. Not an inconsiderable amount of time, but it's it really kind of fell short of expectations. Is the best way I would put it.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, exactly.
Sounds like it didn't do what you wanted it to do.
It really didn't, which makes me a sad boy. But anyway, did you have a game that you've been playing recently you'd like to?
Oh man, do we have time for that?
Probably not. We'll save it for the next one.
I've recently been playing a bunch of things. As normal, my attention span for games is all over the place.
Yep. Same.
So I've been playing a bit of Kingdoms of Amalur: ReReckoning on stream on Fridays. I'm planning to try Dead Kel, I believe. I need to hit
Yes.
level 10 first, though, so I have another, hour or two, maybe. My
Sure.
camera's fuzzy again.
Oh
Before
no.
I can do that, so this coming, well, at this point, this will be after that. But hopefully by the time this episode comes out, I've hit level 10 and I've started Dead Kel, and we'll see what that's all about. Because I was like, why not do something new that I haven't done in the game on stream if I'm going to stream it?
Oh,
So I'm going to
sure.
try that.
Yeah.
I'm also, for that, I've tried sorcery as my main thing this time.
Oh, okay.
And the first flame mark I got, I was like, all right, let's try this. I'm like, oh, you can mark multiple at a time. That's cool. And then I'm like, let's try it out. And all of a sudden, it just murders everyone. I'm like, oh,
Oh,
this is great.
yeah.
The next thing I'll be getting is the chain lightning
Oh, very nice. Yeah.
ability. And I'm like, ooh.
Yeah.
So I'm doing chakrams, of course, chakrams.
Always.
I think I was gonna do. I don't know. Right now, I think I have a bow because I got a
Sure.
really good damaging bow. I was gonna do scepter, but then I got the spells. I'm like, well, the scepter takes mana,
It does.
and the spells are better. So let's
Yeah.
take something that doesn't use mana. I might try Feyblades. I don't know. I haven't decided the secondary. Chakrams always are fantastic,
Sure.
but I'm going mostly sorcery with a bit of finesse.
You could try a stave if you wanted to. I mean, they'd
I'm
be for more
iffy
up
on them.
close. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, they're definitely more up close.
Yeah.
Aside from Kingdoms of Amalur ReReckoning, however, I decided to
Oh boy.
try my hand again at the Witcher 3 Wild Hunt.
Okay. Interesting. I was thinking
Which
about going back to that at some point too.
and I also decided to see if there were some mods for it.
Oh, okay.
There are quite a few mods. Unfortunately, they're not really optimized to install with the Vortex launcher as well as I'd hope.
Mm,
So a lot of them you have to like download and install manually, which is kind of a pain in the ass.
yeah.
It's fine. But one of the mods I found is about a 10 gigabyte graphic overhaul mod
Oh.
that turns everything into, I think, Ultra HD.
Whoa. Okay.
So it goes from being what it used to be in the base game to being everything's now really nice looking.
Yeah.
Really nice looking. I'll
Yeah.
probably give you a link to put a couple visuals up on that
Sure.
if
Yeah.
you remind me.
That would be great.
But I was like, it's going from this thing here to that there, and I'm like, wow.
Big difference.
I'm like, there's a big difference.
Yeah.
I wanted some mods maybe that made it easier to like the combat a little better. I found one that I think enhances the targeting a bit. Lets the soft lock controls
Oh
not
yeah.
be as strange.
Yeah.
So I think that one actually, I don't know if it's working the way it's supposed to, but combat hasn't felt quite as tanky.
Yeah.
And I found another mod for the camera to, for instance, when you're using the Witcher senses, how it's pulled really up close against his shoulder.
Sure.
I found one that lets you adjust the camera settings for all sorts of different stuff, like swimming, horseback, interior, exterior, Witcher senses, and I've pulled the camera back to give me a bit more FOV and a bit more. So when I use Witcher senses inside, it pulls back up farther, so you're still seeing torso up instead of just shoulder and back of head.
Oh yeah.
So it's like, yes, I can actually see things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So with those, I'm like, all right, this is a lot nicer. And I'm playing through that, and as I'm playing through it, I'm not skipping a bunch of the story because it is a good story. Again, The Witcher does a great job storytelling, and the environment and everything is really good.
It's a highlight.
And
Yeah.
the investigation of the game is fantastic. And so as I'm playing it, I've got Graveyard over here, who's also kind of paying attention to some of the story beats. So I
Mhm.
just did the quest line with the Bloody Baron,
That was a famous one. Yeah. Very
which is very, very well known, I guess. Yeah, it's
Oh,
famous
yes.
in
Yeah.
that series for being what it is, but she's never played it, so
Sure.
I was like, yeah, this one's a really interesting quest line. And I got to the botchling,
Yep.
and I'm like, this is horrifying. And she's like, oh geez, oh dear.
Yep. Yeah. It sure
Um,
is.
Obviously, I turned him into a lubberkin because obviously being a good witcher is what I want to do. I just want to be, kind of
I
benevolent.
think that's what I did too. I want to
Um,
say it was, but
on the flip side, in ReReckoning, I'm doing stuff I kind of haven't done before. So in Webwood, I just got there because I was like, I need storage. Let me get my house, please.
yeah, yeah.
Um, in Webwood, I decided to kill the guy,
Oh,
the
okay.
guard. Instead of saving him and running the guy who asked me to kill him out of town, I actually killed him.
Oh,
And I think when I get to Castle Yolvan, I'm gonna try and side with the Fae
oh, okay.
and see how that goes.
Yeah.
Because I haven't done that before.
Mhm. Yeah.
And as soon as I sided with that guy, and he's like, "All right, cool. I need you to go do this," and he's kind of being snippy with me. I'm like, "Wow, this guy's actually kind of a fucking dick."
Yeah, he really is. He
I'm
is.
like, I should have just killed you like I usually do.
Yeah. Yeah. Fair enough.
But yeah, those are two
Yeah.
of the games I've been playing.
Sure.
Um, that and Planet Zoo, but I go back and forth with that. I've been
Yeah.
playing that because Crave has been playing that, and I got some cheetahs in my zoo and some monkeys in my zoo, and people are just like throwing money at the zoo now.
Perfect. I love when
Yeah,
people throw money at my zoo.
yeah,
It's
and
my
that
favorite
goes
thing.
into when I think we were talking about game modes.
Probably.
Whenever we were talking about those, easy mode, story mode,
Oh,
it
easy
might have
mode,
been in the
story mode.
chat,
Yeah, yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
But yeah, so
Sure.
those have
Good.
kind of been what I've been playing. Witcher and Re-Reckoning and um, Planet Zoo
Sure.
and whatnot.
Yep. Yeah, I was playing. It's good to know that you're going to Witcher 3 because I played probably I was probably 100 hours or so into Witcher 3 by the time I haven't picked it up in a very long time because I don't know if it lends itself quite as well to replayability as some of the other like large like epic RPGs, but the one thing, as we've mentioned before, that was problematic was the actual combat. Uh, so many of the other things are great. The storyline is practically Shakespeare, especially when you get into the Bloody Baron quest line. It's just it's poetic and very interesting with the way that it's developed for characters. That storyline was actually built by CD Projekt Red. That was not from the novels.
Oh,
I,
okay, good.
I was interested when I heard about that, but that does not come from the novels. That was specifically designed for the game. And some of the other ones, there's one that's about like a storybook where it's like a twisted version of the golden goose and the big bad wolf and all of that. Those are fascinating, but yeah. Then you get to the combat and you're kind of like going, this never feels quite right.
Right.
It never feels quite right. If they could just use the Kingdoms of Amalur combat, put
Yeah, more
that
fluid.
in, yeah, just
I
that's
think actually playing Kingdoms of Amalur is the reason I want to play The Witcher is because they're both very much action and very much story heavy.
Oh yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
where I didn't want to play more Kingdoms of Amalur on my own off stream if I'm going to stream it. So I wanted to play
Right.
something similar but different.
Yeah. The compare and contrast on that is definitely interesting because there are things that KOA does way better, I think, especially in gameplay. And there are things that I think The Witcher does, especially with character development and world building. And it would be really interesting to see how, if you could kind of just take the best of both worlds and just do like the I got Witcher in my Kingdoms of Amalur. No, you got your Kingdoms of Amalur in my Witcher. That kind of thing. But yeah, so that. Oh, and also, yesterday I tried picking up because it's a free play weekend, so I'll see how I feel about it. If I want to actually get it, is
Did you pick up New World?
no,
Oh,
no.
because that's a free play weekend too,
Oh, it is. I didn't know that.
currently.
Yeah, I probably won't though.
I don't blame you.
Yeah, was Grow Song of the Evertree and the
Oh, yes.
yeah, and mostly just because that looked like it very charming, and I thought it kind of reminded me a little bit of Stardew Valley, which it does. And early impressions of that are pretty positive for me. I liked the look of it.
Mhm.
The designing your character at the beginning was fun. it does eventually get into the, oh, okay, let's go do some farming work very quickly.
Oh, hold on 1 second. Since you're playing Grow Song of the Evertree a bit, here's my first question for you.
Yes.
What do you think of the book?
The book's cool.
The book is terrifying.
The book is terrifying.
I want you to put just a screenshot of that book's face right on the video
book's
here.
Face? Okay.
Yeah, because it's like it goes right up in your face and starts talking to you, and it's like, oh my god, you're terrifying.
Yeah.
It's a nightmare.
Copper Top and book. Those two together. But hey, I mean, you get a giant griffin thing that you get to ride.
Yeah,
about
that's
5
cute,
seconds
but the
in.
book is terrifying.
Okay, fine. The book is terrifying. That's just the name
again,
of the episode. The book is terrifying.
I've played about like 4 hours of it, and I haven't gone back to it since.
Sure.
Because I've been doing other things. So it's one of those games I feel is kind of charming and kind of like cool to begin with, but doesn't seem to grab me and make me go, yeah, I want to play more of this.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I'll see if I really want to continue on with it. Journey's out right now, but so anyway, those have been some things that. Oh, and as we've already mentioned, I was playing Rage, but don't worry, we'll talk about that in more episodes about specific mechanics. But anyway, so that's been some things that we've been playing. We'll probably do this a little bit more frequently just because we end up playing a lot of games that don't necessarily warrant a specific topic, but that we, want to discuss a little bit more about our impressions of it. So that'll be good.